Well, all across Canada, millions of school children marching out of school, walking out of school on this June 3rd, standing against pride flag raisings in schools all over Canada. It's called My Child June. And I can't believe this is actually happening. How do they pull this off in 2024, saying enough with your gender ideology, enough with your indoctrination of our children across Canada? I thought Canada was lost, gone. David Krayden has been fighting for Canada. He's a journalist, an independent journalist from Canada who writes at the Post Millennial, who's been following this and joins us from Ottawa, Canada. David, how did they pull this off?
Well, they haven't done it yet, but they will. And I'll tell you, this was all done under the surface because my friend who I worked with on the Million Person March, Camille El Sheikh, he's an Ottawa businessman and a Muslim activist who pulled off the Million Person March last September. And people said, "There's no way you're going to get 1 million people." Camille had such a network of people across the country that started with Muslim groups, but exploded with other faiths as well. So this is not just Muslims. It's Christians, it's evangelical Christians, it's Roman Catholics, it's Hindus, it's Sikhs, it's Jews. It's parents of all faiths. And they work together on this project quietly, behind the scenes, below the surface. And they're ready to go today. Today is the day. There's a nationwide walkout. Children and parents who don't want to be watching while this gay pride, and I say that in quotation marks, flag is raised at their school, will not be there. Now, Camille told me yesterday that a lot of the schools, or some of the schools, got word of this, even though they made the announcement very late in the game. And they're changing the date of the pride flag hoisting from Monday to possibly Tuesday or Wednesday. Well, they're ready for that too. They're telling their children to wear red and white clothing to represent the flag of Canada, not the rainbow flag, and that they will opt out. They will not go to any ceremonies where this flag is hoisted. Now, I can't tell you how revolutionary this is, Clayton, for Canada. This is a country where people who are usually too busy and too afraid to protest government policy, to take on the school boards, to take on provincial government education elites. But Camille and his friends, and the people he has put together into this group have managed to care enough about Canada's children. I spoke about this at a Ottawa church yesterday to say what the Muslim community in Canada has started and how they've engaged people of all faiths. And I tell you, the applause was deafening because Christians in this country have not done enough to stop the ideological campaign that the woke left has waged against parents, whether it's gender ideology or whether it's the whole LGBTQ plus indoctrination that children are being subject to from the earliest of ages. And the pride flag is just one of them. And because June is supposedly Pride Month in Canada, the Hands Off Our Kids campaign says, no, it's my child June. It's about my children. It's not about something called pride, whatever that is. And this is what we're going to focus on. And they have taken back June for Canadian parents. And I think they're on the verge of taking back this country for common sense and for parental rights. The fact that this kind of information should be inculcated into children at home and not by parents, not by school boards, not by politicians, not by Justin Trudeau. And this is what they've been so effective in doing. And I tell you, I've never seen a movement like this in Canada. I take my hats off to Camille and the people he's put together. He's got a tremendous team from across Canada. This is not just Ottawa. This is from Halifax to Vancouver. And these people are poised and ready to take action. And if this event is anything like the Million Person March, with exceeded 1 million people, well, it actually was a 1.5 million person march after all was said and done, I think he's going to be successful. And he's putting a lot of his own time and energy and money into making this happen. I take my hat off to him. I congratulate him. I'm I have waited so long to see Canadians concerned about their children, sufficiently concerned about their children and the future of this country, that they're willing to take this kind of action, because these are desperate times. And I think this LGBTQ community is just pushed too far. There's pornography in the libraries across Canada, in the schools. The sex education courses are so incredibly ridiculous. They're teaching kids to do something you wouldn't even find in most X-rated films. And parents are just saying, I've had it up to here. I'm not just fed up, I'm going to throw up. And that's the attitude today. So
Yeah.
this is a historic day in Canada.
Preach on, preach on. You know, we were just in London this weekend, and I couldn't believe there was a bookstore right near our hotel, and we made sure that we didn't walk our kids across that section because I had walked out there earlier, and there are all sorts of like pornographic books. It was like it had their trans flags hanging in the window for Pride Month, and they had a whole bunch of books like selected up right in the front window. And it was the most like perverted stuff. I would never want my children to see that stuff. Like, we need to have your sexual perversions like right here in our face on a public street. No. And now, of course, it's in schools. And I frankly think a lot of the gay population is had enough too, that their movement has been totally co-opted by this gender ideology and these trans flag gender ideology indoctrination of our children. What started out as a rainbow flag is now some flag with a pointy chevron on the side, and God, every week it changes now. And you're supposed to keep up with it or you're bigoted. I'm curious what the Liberals in Canada say about this. What does Justin Trudeau say about this movement? Have the Liberals spoken out against this? Are they saying that, you know, if you take part in this march to protect children, then you're bigoted, you're a MAGA right-wing extremist, you're in the Trump fold?
I think you probably collected all of the adjectives and the various various dispersions that the government will cast upon these people. They've said nothing so far. I think that's because they don't believe this is going to happen. They didn't believe the million-person march was going to happen either. They said that's impossible. There's not enough parents out there who really care about gender ideology in the schools. And they really don't think there's enough parents out there who are mad as hell and aren't going to take it anymore about this pride flag and this pride month, which is now Pride season. That's all we want to talk about.
Right.
School has become just a nonstop curriculum of sex education, and it's not just revolting; it's just absurd. Our kids no longer being taught the basics of just how to read and write. No, they're being taught to have sex change operations. They're being taught about all kinds of weird sexual behavior when they're not even old enough and they're not even developed as human beings. And we're foisting this matter upon them, this material upon them. And I think really they have pushed too far, as you said. The whole expanding alphabet soup coalition of LGBT plus, and I can't even remember all the other elements in this equation anymore. They have
it changes every week.
Pushed too far.
Yeah, it changes every week. How are you going to keep up with it?
Yeah, and they won't. And what will they be satisfied with? I don't know. And when there's complete sexual license in the schools, when parents have absolutely no say in what's going on, maybe then they'll find something else to push and to promote in the schools, and it certainly won't be education, and that's not what they're focused on. They're not focused on raising children in schools that are capable of reading, writing, and reasoning. That's not what they want. They want indoctrinated students in a woke ideology that has simply gone mad, that has gone crazy in this country, and once again, I am so, shall I say, inspired that there are enough Canadian parents who are pushing back on this. And they're going to shock the Liberal government today, I'll tell you that. And they're going to shock them throughout the month of June, because Camille tells me they have got a lot of events planned for the month of June to push back on this so-called Pride Month and this flying of the Pride flag everywhere, even at the Prime Minister's office. They literally take down the Canadian flag now at the Prime Minister's office right across the street from Parliament Hill. They take the Canadian flag down and they put the Pride flag up. So who is this Prime Minister aligned with? Who is he supporting? Is he Canada's Prime Minister, or is he working for the LGBTQ plus ideology? Is he working for this group? because it's not clear anymore who Justin Trudeau represents. He doesn't represent ordinary Canadians. He doesn't represent these parents who are engaged in this walkout today and who will be opposing this month throughout June.
Well, we'll see when all the dust settles later today, as the night falls there in Canada, as it's going to, what the response was, and then how many more days they will continue this if the politicians and the schools decide to continue this over the next few days. David Krayden in Ottawa, Canada, keeping his eyes on all of this. Culture warrior there in Ottawa. Thank you, David, as always.
Thank you so much, Clayton, for your interest in the story, and we will continue to monitor.